What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube, presented by Pure Options Precision Crafted Cannabis. This is the weekend. This is the time. 420, the Christmas of cannabis, and Pure Options is celebrating with a block party at their Lansing Frandor location. Sean Kingston, Desmond Jones, DJs and more, live games, food trucks, 10 a.m. until 6, 7-ish, wherever it ends. Great deals going on. Swing on by the Frandor location of Pure Options and make a day of it. If you're going to the spring football game for Michigan State, it's real close, within a mile. Great place to go before or after. You can check out the schedule at pureoptions.com for live acts and all that. And, make a day of it. Big event, great deals going on as well. And our Friday afternoon show also presented by our friends at Firekeepers Casino and Firekeepers Casino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. Bet the games we're betting. I have Premier League underdogs this weekend. Not just the Premier League, the FA Cup. I'm probably going to lose boatloads of money, but I am all over a number of underdogs in soccer this weekend. Really love the spot, and we'll get into those in a second. Jason, how you doing, brother?
You've had too many donuts, mate.
Hey, man. Happy pre-420 day.
It's a big day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know for you personally, too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And for you? More for you.
Every day's 420 for me.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
It's like Christmas and 420, my life. So.
Yeah, like the Santa Rube story. We could tell a version of that on 420 day. It would be just the...
Yeah.
I don't know what it would be.
Do that in front of the whole crowd, I guess.
We did. I am glad that Sean Kingston is performing at the block party tomorrow instead of us. I'll be honest. It's better.
We don't really have a catalog of music.
That too.
To get it bumping for the people. We just stand in front of there and talk Michigan State sports for 10 minutes, and then I tell a jail story, and then people throw shit at us. So
that can be entertaining as well.
It could be for other people, yeah.
Yeah, but grateful that Pure Options has put together a better event than that.
Yes.
And better for you, frankly, the consumer and the attendee. I'll say that as well. We are going to dig into our Groovy Donut Twitter questions here momentarily. Some great stuff. I think it should be a good conversation. But first, as we do every Friday, what we are betting this weekend, presented by the Firekeepers. Presented by Firekeepers Casino and Firekeepers Casino and Sportsbook app. You'll love the promotional bonuses as you sign up, the usability. Give it a try and see if you like it. We'd like to know what you think of the Firekeepers Casino and Sportsbook app. Jason, are you betting anything this weekend?
I'm definitely going to fade the Tigers because they just they annoy me to no end, and they're not going to ruin one of my parlays. I'll sprinkle on some baseball, but maybe some RBC Heritage. But I got to say, this week, the playoffs, the NBA playoffs start. As much as I'm not a big NBA guy for the regular season, I do like the postseason. So I do like doing the single game parlays on some of those. So I might sprinkle in one of those too.
Yeah, no, I will definitely overreact to games one in the NBA playoffs and bet adjusted series prices that I'll lose on eventually.
The play-in game.
Yeah, I mean, I overreact way too much. Like I said, the Premier League and FA Cup games this weekend, which those who don't know, the FA Cup is like a separate cup within English soccer that everybody can participate in, from the smallest clubs to the biggest clubs, but you're down to the semifinals, so you have mostly really big clubs. You do have one team in Coventry City, which if you've ever been to Coventry, England, very, very cool place. It's where the cathedral was bombed during World War II, and part of the old cathedral is still there with a sign that says "Father Forgive." It's a cool place. But they also play soccer, and they are plus 443 against Manchester United, who is, I actually like sort of a both teams to score, or, I haven't figured out exactly what I do, but sprinkling on the money line here for sure. Manchester United, way too much just variability with this. And then Manchester City getting eliminated from the Champions League, playing a Chelsea team they've tied twice on a neutral field, and Chelsea is plus 395. Give me Chelsea. I'll take some I'll take some odds with that. I think there are good opportunities in the Premier League too, like Luton Town at home in a must-win against a Brentford team that's been slumping, plus 209. Also like them as a pick'em, plus 130. There are a lot of really good, interesting games. Arsenal coming off being eliminated, and they're on the road at a Wolverhampton team that I think will get up for this at plus 839. Like, I'm telling you, the Premier League dogs, you may lose every one of these, but you hit one, you're going to feel good. You hit the right one, you're going to feel really, really good. There's some good stuff out there. Don't even hate Fulham at home against Liverpool right now at plus 417. Lots of dogs, I feel like, on the Firekeeper's Eye Casino and Sportsbook app. So that's where I'll be this weekend.
All right.
Yeah. Jason, you back?
Yeah. Just wondering when you're going to be done.
Sorry, got excited. Anyway, all right. Let us now dig into our Groovy Donut Twitter questions.
Eric Schultz up first. This is the third consecutive offseason where it's clear MSU needs a transfer big. As a guy paid for his opinions on MSU basketball, what will your response be if it doesn't happen yet again?
Yeah, that Izzo is risking losing the trust of his fan base.
Yes.
Especially his younger fans. And but also maybe to him, he'd rather risk losing that than losing portions of his roster. Like I need to hear from him a little bit. Because I did think throughout the season when I listened to him and just reading the tea leaves that he understood there were things that were not adequate. And so for him then not to address certain areas that weren't adequate, you want to hear why. Now, does he think internally that he's got a plan? Like, if you're going to, if you're going to bring in Trey Townsend and another wing, and so you're thinking about lineups that might also include Xavier Booker at the 5, Trey Townsend at the 4, another wing. Like all of a sudden you can see where you're trying to play some really interesting lineups that could be very skilled and very good, and you've got a plan. If you've got a plan, I want to hear it. That would be my thing. And I understand, what he said on Stout show the other day. By the way, Tim Stout.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate Tim Stout.
But
get yourself a Twitter account that you're using regularly. Get yourself a producer who pushes that stuff out there. It took about 12 hours after Izzo said all this stuff. Like, nobody's listening. It took 12 hours before it got aggregated by somebody who said, hey, this sort of got set. Like it shouldn't take 12 hours for things people are waiting to hear to get out there because nobody was paying attention.
Yeah.
You got to find a way to use.
You think people make money over there?
Turn your
AM station anymore?
I think Stout's making money.
Well, yeah, of course. He wouldn't do it if he wasn't making money.
Right.
But yeah, $5 a spot. I mean, he's making money, some sort of money.
Turn that into a clip. Turn it into a podcast.
How are
do
you,
something.
How are you supposed to know when to tune in, though? Because there's like
That's
19 minutes of commercials surrounding it. So
it's,
you know what I mean? Whatever.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, he got Izzo on.
Hard hitting questions, I'm guessing.
He got Izzo on. And to be fair to him, like in terms of promoting it, I don't think he knew if he was going to get Izzo on that day until like the moment it happened.
You know what? I don't know. It might happen in today's show. Okay.
Yeah. No. Look, you're betting on a lot of things if you don't get a big. If you go with Carson Cooper and Jackson Kohler and Xavier Booker, and Booker is obviously fine because at some point you have to bet on him at the 4 or the 5, right? I mean, and that point is now, but.
So did you listen to the whole Stout interview? Did you learn anything? I mean,
I just read the aggregation. I was one of those guys because I didn't listen. I wasn't ready to tune in. Is there a podcast version of it out there?
I don't know if they do a podcast.
It's not.
If they ship it out as a podcast. I don't know.
It was no offense to them, and I don't mean to pick on a station, but I
used to work there. Let's do it.
Well, you remember? Well, this is where the whole deal with Spotlight. Before Spotlight, Ebling's show began over there, and so my sort of being on the radio in Lansing began on Ebling's show over there. I appreciate that. I appreciate Stout for I've been watching Stout since I was like 7 years old, right? I mean, the guy's been around a long time, and I so this is no, but
it's no slight on him. But here it is.
It's not even on him. It's just like you got to have a podcast for these shows. Like I remember when there was some interest in us going over there, and I probably shouldn't say. I don't know if this is like
no, you can say it
simulcast,
It wasn't really mutual, but
No, it was not mutual. Like the idea was they thought like they were doing us a favor. Like, are you kidding me? So we alienate our audience with having like 4 commercial breaks an hour again.
Oof.
And we do 2 hours, 5 days a week, like that style, then turn it into a podcast that's not as good, where 90% of your audience is, and your audience is much bigger than theirs. Like it was hard to explain to them, like, this is not you. You're not doing us a favor. This would be vice versa. Anyway,
can't talk like normal people talk. And,
yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, how many? If a man wants to say fuckity fuck on his own show, you ought to be able to do it, and that's something you can't do on the show.
Stout.
Yeah, so I don't know if I answered that. I hope I did. There could be more about these.
What was the question?
He said it's the third. If it's the third consecutive off season where MSU needs a transfer big. What would your response be if it doesn't happen yet again?
Go on Stout's show and you won't hear about it for 48 hours.
No, my answer would be that he's risking losing portions of his audience, and maybe he's doing that over not risking portions of his roster. But I'd want to hear it from him because I think it's something that I thought he understood they needed last year. It was clearly a weak point, and so you're betting on Carson Cooper and Jackson Kohler and Xavier Booker, and there are parts of those bets that make sense and other parts of those bets that are really, really dicey, even if you like components of their game and you think they're going to develop. And if you're chasing championships, there are some I'd want to hear it from him for sure.
Next one from Eric. I get the sense you think Xavier Booker doesn't come if MSU brought in a big last year. Which hypothetical team had and has the best chance of accomplishing something real? Last year's team with no Booker, but a good big. Last year's team as is, or next year's team with a transfer wing, but no big?
It's a really good question. I mean, a really good big without Booker, last year's team would have had a better chance. The problem is if you're not getting Booker, like people are going to be mad at some point. So if you're not getting Booker, if you're saying Booker isn't coming, but we're taking this solid transfer big, people would have been pissed off on the front end about that. What the hell? You're giving up the 5-star pro, and it still may pay off. Like, there's no way to make everybody happy. Like, he'd be washed in recruiting if he missed out on Booker, right? People, he's washed. I don't know what the voice said. Is that my half stout, half donut?
I don't know.
I won't do it again.
It sounds like when you have to distort someone's voice for to hide their voice.
Yeah. So, but I do think it really depends what guys develop into and what Booker is next year. Like, is Booker is he just a really tantalizing player who shows flashes, or is he a consistent guy who's a force in certain ways? And so it's hard to know next year's. So last year, but just talking last year, I think last year's veteran team with a really good big without Booker, because Booker didn't even play most of the year, would have been the better team. Next year's team, it depends how people develop, what Fears is as a point guard, what Akins is a 2. There's just a lot more unknowns. But, you could make an argument for upside. But I would say last year without Booker.
Dominic next. James Edwards' take on our 5s was glorious. It's not just us fucknut fans, Couch. Now Q Graham saying it was a miscalculation by the staff. Followed by him pretending he doesn't already know we aren't bringing in a big. How much do I have to pay for you to just say it? $79.99.
That'll do it?
Yeah.
For me to say they're not bringing in a big?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't. I've.
If he doesn't bring in a 5, I think it would be hilarious, but I don't want to deal with it.
There's a real chance he doesn't. I'm going to tell you right now. There is a real chance he doesn't. But I have not heard it straight from him. And when he said what he said on Stout
Doug
Show
Wojcik telling you that? I mean,
about not wanting to upset the apple cart, that's a real thing. And so I think that is something he is wrestling with. And what he has that some programs don't right now, and he values. And again, I'm trying to speak for him,
That's good. I like that.
But he has a roster that isn't jumping in the portal. He has stability. He is still able to build through development. And eventually that's going to change. Eventually, most likely, MSU is going to be like every one of these other programs that loses several guys, tries to bring several guys in. It's a just chaos. I mean, I can't even imagine the Twitter questions at that point. The days guys jump in the portal, the guys coming in, the guys leaving, all that stuff. Eventually, that could happen. He's trying to hang on to something, and blend two worlds. And I don't think that's the wrong approach. It's just, do you construct the right roster with it? I've said before, everybody knows where I stand on this. He ought to bring in somebody who can defend and rebound. And now, if there are other political things at play, if there are guys you're worried about losing, I think that's a conversation that is fair, and it's fair to say that. And I think that's when he says, I'm trying not to upset the apple cart. We don't know the specifics of that.
The apple cart?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what they'll ultimately do. You see really good names jumping in the portal today. There are going to be more who jump in the portal next week. This thing is going to go on for a month. It is not like football. What is out there now is not done. And some of it will depend on the final NIL payments guys are getting. Some will depend on, conversations they have internally. But certainly based on the movement to this far and even things that I've heard have been said internally, they have not been making moves like they're bringing in a big. I'll just say that.
This next month is going to blow then, right? Dominic, Spencer Torkelson's bat is a fucking wind turbine. Jesus Christ. All fucking mighty. Did anyone watch Marcus Simeon or Wyatt Langford yesterday? Yeah, me either. Kill me.
Torkelson's been a real disappointment. And unfortunately, he's got a little bit of a punchable face, too, so it doesn't help.
And you're just waiting. You want something good to happen for Tork, but then...
He hit the hell out of the ball on one at-bat the other day. But, yeah, no, it's just like...
well,
so
is Javi Baez. He's doing it every once in a while.
He was so good at the end of last season that I really was hopeful. And that's the thing. Like, in baseball, it is a tough sport that requires a little bit of patience, and it's still only April. Like, I'm not going to overreact.
But he's shown this throughout his career so far in Detroit of just going ice cold with his bat.
100%. For
it's
a guy
not like just popped out of anywhere,
And at some point, you have to acknowledge, because he's a number one overall pick. So that changes what expectations are for them. It's not whether you and he's also playing at a position where you have to produce offensively. And so those things need to be understood, and he needs to understand that. And if what is good for somebody is not what's good for a number one pick. And if the Tigers just missed on him, if he's a miss, then that's fine. But at some point they're going to have to say it. Now, I am 100% willing to give him this entire year to become the player he's going to at least show signs of becoming. And but right now it does not look great.
Next one from Dominic. Oh, so you have reservations about Caleb Williams and Drake May is your guy, Couch? I couldn't get you to stop singing about the Bears passing on Mahomes for a North Carolina quarterback, but now it's all the rage. Go sit in a fucking corner, bro.
Did I say reservations about Caleb Williams?
I don't remember that.
It's possible.
I would trust Dominic over myself.
Totally.
Remembering things, but
pure options things going on, or maybe I was thinking about donuts, but I don't remember having reservations about.
But you're a big Drake May guy, and I do remember talking about I just can't shake the Trubisky, North Carolina. As soon as I see the North Carolina helmet, I think of Trubisky.
Yeah, I would take Caleb Williams one.
Oh, smart.
That's not. I don't tell stories well, and I don't speak in the right order, and I don't use words correctly all that often, so it's possible I misspoke. I listen to a few people all year long, and it's only going to get worse with Jonathan Smith, who sounds a bit like Yoda in his sentence structure. So I've got Jonathan Smith. I've got Tom Izzo, who has not put together a complete sentence in the right order with words in 30 years. I've got my mother who tells stories backwards. I've got some of you guys, and I'm editing your Twitter questions that sometimes don't get to the point for like 6 graphs. So I don't have a lot of people who are good communicators in my life, and I'm somebody who very much mimics what's around me in terms of pacing and communicating in words. So I apologize if I didn't sound like I would draft Caleb Williams one, but that's my life. I just don't have a lot of people around me who speak well.
Speaking of your mom, I did enjoy her absolutely ignoring the police presence as you guys were taking a walk. There was a suspect who was thought to be in a house, I guess, in your neighborhood. And there's cops everywhere, and your mom's just like, yeah, so anyway,
That's very much
I
her.
feel that a little bit sometimes. You just have something important you want to say.
She's in the middle of a story. 100%. She's in the middle of a story. Like, it does not matter that we were walking. Like, this is interrupting her story, and I'm still trying to figure out where we are in this story and who these characters are, and do I know them? And somebody from church,
SWAT team, tell her to get out of the way.
I may have met 30 years ago that I'm trying to remember. That's one of our many stories worth telling. She gives me, presented by our friends, of course, at Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue. Great weekend, of course, for Midtown Brewing Company, as every weekend is. Swing by for a date night, a drink after work, and or brunch on Sunday, and you'll love their brunch menu. MidtownBrewing.net. We have some gift cards going out, and also
yes.
This is where I stuck at words. This is listening to too much Izzo. We have like sheets that prove you won the Couch in the Rube 2024 bracket challenge. If you're a winner, that gets you what you're getting from
right here. I got one right here, actually. The men's bracket winner.
For
entitles you up
Midtown
to 6 guests to a party at Midtown Brewing Company in our big booth. $100 food credit, alcohol not included, 2-hour maximum stay. So you can't hang out for 9 hours.
You can't do 12 hours over there. I'll just have another water, please.
I feel like that's okay to put on here. Yes,
yeah,
2-hour maximum stay.
Yeah.
Let's hang.
Yeah, all right.
All right, Dominic next. Why are all Lats bots liking my questions again? Twitter, I don't know. Elon, what are you doing with this Twitter thing?
It's so bad at this point. The new thing is like the link in bio porn bots that are under everything.
Now you're talking. You're going to send me porn. That's fine.
I've tried, but there's so many of them. I try to block them, and they still show up. Like, I think they're unblockable because I know they're using a lot of different names and little screen, whatever. They're bots. But no matter how many you block, there's more of them. I try to block them, and because I don't want the kids running into that who are reading my stuff. We don't need that. And
why? You're not tweeting out porn. I mean, if someone likes your post, is that really your fault?
I do find there are certain people who, when they comment on my stuff, I get a million porn bots. Lets me know what else they're searching.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.
DeUper next. For months, I've listened as Dominic's become more unhinged as he refused to acknowledge the blue wall, insists that Wojcik is a brilliant tactician. Pistons are better than the Bulls and Kings. Call Jackson Kohler baby Jokic. Are you trying to provoke a mental health crisis? I challenge you to bring Dominic in the studio and say these things to his face. The people demand a reckoning.
I would enjoy having Dominic in studio, actually.
Oh, man, what a show that would be, huh?
Yeah, 100%.
I'd be nervous to read his Twitter things in front of him.
Yeah. No, it would be good. It would be actually really I don't know. We should look at the possibilities. The problem is that we have a lot of really good listeners.
Wait till I go on vacation again.
We have a lot of really good listeners. And, no, you would need to be part of that show, for sure. Yeah.
All right.
We have a lot of really good listeners, and just choosing between some. But Dominic is a classic, and I don't know if Dominic and Eric and brought a few others.
Eric Schultz would just sit there and stare at you, all pissed off.
It would be. I'm going to really need Tom to bring in a
just
center if we're going to do these. If we're going to do this, just for my own safety.
Oh, that would be wild. Maybe. Does the Greg Doyle discourse make you a little nervous about the pod now that people are really taking a look at all of his tweets? Dude, your boy Doyle.
Oh, man.
Something else, man. He's next level.
We have
with
a bunch coming on
G's in
Doyle
his first name, man.
Oh, yeah. It's,
God dang.
Yeah, Greg did not do the white male sports columnist any favors the other day.
Can I just say, though, he did apologize right away, and I thought his apology was really sincere.
He just kind of missed the point. But
I know, but you know what I mean? Like, how much does the guy took a beating.
He did.
Unlike anything I've seen. It was in NewYorkPost.com. It was everywhere.
It was the beating of a lifetime.
Oh.
It was bad. And I did feel a little bad. I mean, he is awkward. And I understand there are people out there, and he may have had some circumstances with other people where there have been cringeworthy moments, and so that's on him.
He even said himself he does it to Colts players.
He is a little I mean, he is.
You know what I mean? It's like, all right,
little odd in those ways.
He's trying to be a really nice guy. I get it, but
To your question, maybe I am not. I have gotten over this a while ago, like this sort of fear of, because two things happen. I try not to say anything here that I can't stand behind it.
That's interesting.
Well, yeah, that too. But even that can't be justified with humor. And if we cross a line occasionally, then so be it. I've also gotten
Graham will DM you.
Well, I've also gotten more comfortable going at people who come at me, and than I was 10 years ago. Like I'm just not.
Yeah.
I'm now. I also am very comfortable that I would not have done something to the extent that Greg Doyle did it.
Dude, if you put up a heart with your hands,
yeah,
I would shit my pants with laughter.
So I'm also
confident.
confident that I'm not going to do that. But we do have some tweets on this show and interactions that.
And who cares? We don't mean anything bad by it. And
yeah,
I don't think Greg Doyle did either, by the way.
No, and Greg needs to work on having more peeps. Like I'm also confident that if people came at me for something that was not that specifically, because I wouldn't do that specifically, but that was something that was off the cuff on this show, that there would be other people defending what we do on this show, because a lot of people like this show, and otherwise they wouldn't listen. Otherwise, just it wouldn't be happening.
Oh, man. Oh, we're done? Okay. David Zondi next. Has Graham ever asked an incredibly regrettable question like Greg Doyle at a press conference? It's a story worth telling. Or been at one when an acceptable question was asked by another journalist. You don't need to name the person. Yes, you do.
Well, I just can't. I just can't think. I mean, I've been around lots of bad questions. I've been around questions that were a little cringe just based on gender. No, I can't even think of. But I do have. He
asked Paul Davis that he heard that Paul Davis was crying on the phone or something.
No, I have. Well, I have one of my own. I've told it before. I think on this show, it wasn't at a press conference. I'm pretty careful at press conferences. I mean, I've stumbled through them. I've asked dumb questions. We've all done that, but nothing that was really inappropriate. The worst one I ever had in a gender situation, and I think I've told this, but I'll tell it again, is I was covering Highland Community College back in the day. Like this is like 2004, and it includes Highland Community College women's basketball, women's volleyball, and I was talking to the women's volleyball coach, and one of her players who had been out with some sort of heart arrhythmia or something came up to her to say that she was cleared and was back on the team. And I had covered this young woman in high school in basketball and volleyball in the year or two before it. And she'd been a big star in the area. And I had done a piece on her and another player on her team that were both like our players of the year in volleyball or basketball. And I had gone over to her house to sit in her living room to do the interview. Nothing bad about that, right? But when her dad came up with her a few seconds later after she told the coach she was cleared to play, and she introduced me to her father, who had not been there that day that I interviewed them, my immediate response was, "Oh, yeah, I've been in your house before."
All right.
That's what I said to a man who has 3 daughters, ages 19, like 13 and
soccer?
7.
When they were younger?
It was not great. I mean, I was just beat red. I mean, I recovered okay. But obviously, that's actually a funnier moment than it's not like me
being
being
your house. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
I know where her room's located.
So that was that stands out because I get red thinking about it because I just remember how immediately horrified I was. And
see, Greg Doyle, you're off the hook.
There you go.
It wasn't as creepy.
Twitter didn't exist, and it wasn't at a press conference, and it was at a community college in Northwest Illinois. All of those things saved my ass in that moment.
This is my favorite from a presser.
Right now, either you're stuttering or I'm not picking it up because it's a what. So
the pandemic with Tom.
Oh man, that is
technology.
That is a story again. Now you understand why I struggle with words. That is a story we're telling again, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing.
I love this show sometimes. We are so back. Next, why do guys like Greg Doyle keep getting a pass and Audrey Dahlgrens of the world get fucked over for the comparative peanuts? Is the sports media world just an old white boys club?
It's not as much as it used to be.
Yeah.
But here's the
Greg Doyle's leading it.
The answer to that is this. One is Doyle's transgression was, it was a really poorly timed mishap. That was not the moment to not have a professional moment that goes viral. This is, Caitlin Clark coming to your city. There's no bigger star in sports right now maybe than Caitlin Clark. And this is her introductory press conference. You're the local columnist, and you do that. Like the timing is bad as anything I've ever seen. That said, it was. And if there may be some other moments that are a little cringe or he's a little weird, whatever. But that was one thing. I mean, Audrey had I think with the defense of Mel Tucker, there had been some stuff that had, it had been a little bit repeated. However, it is a fair question. I didn't think Audrey Dahlgren should have been fired. From what I understand, they didn't want to fire her locally. That was a corporate thing not standing by you. And I'll say this. I think Greg Doyle just, as a financial decision, is worth more to the Indy Star than Audrey was to WLNS.
How many clicks did he get yesterday, though?
But it's not even about that. He brings in a lot of money and a lot of that wasn't – they didn't even feature that column on their website. They were like, nah, we don't need any Greg today. We don't need it. I mean – and look, I know Greg personally. I've had only good interactions with him. I'm not a female athlete, so I can't speak to it from that perspective. But I do. I also understand the job he has and the joys of it, of being a columnist in a area where you're relevant to the people you're around, and you get to know one, readership really well. And I also know that the tough parts about that, and if you miss that, people don't forget you, and you do not want to go viral like that. And I mean, he'll be remembered in partly forever for that moment because it was Caitlin Clark. Like if you do
what did the guy do? I mean, I understand it was a little cringy, creepy.
It was cringy, creepy. Yeah, no, he shouldn't. He should not be fired for it. They should. But
blown
he should
off the planet.
He should just be.
Greg.
But yeah, he
take one of his G's in his first name.
That's right. You
get
get
enough punishment.
One less G, Greg.
Matt Buckaloo next. I believe Greg Doyle should be forgiven for his awkward super cringe exchange with Caitlin Clark. Am I leaning too much into my privilege as a cisgendered YT male?
No. And I'll tell you one thing, too. First of all, this is still a performance business. And there have been some really bad efforts to cancel Greg Doyle and to cancel all male journalists. I mean, some of it's like, hey, man, like
if Carlos can survive, though,
Yeah, this is why every reporter covering women's sports should be a woman. Like some of us can behave. Some of us can behave. Okay. Do there need to be more women's voices in sports? Absolutely. And I'm not going to get into what aboutism here, but there are lots of examples where I've seen women not behave all that well in sports writing too. I mean, there are people who make mistakes, people on all sorts of genders. He should absolutely be forgiven, but he's going to have to you just got to go a little under the radar. I think he's got to stop tweeting so much because that's part of the issue. And he's in our company, so I probably shouldn't be saying any of this. I'm probably more likely to get suspended than him, but
that would be great
if I got suspended for talking about.
Yeah.
No, I just don't think, here's the other thing. Greg Doyle there is one of the best at what he does. Now, there are elements to what he does that some people say are shtick, whatever, but there were quote tweets and tweets about it where people remember that for every journalist, there are 100 people who want your job and 2,000 who could do it or whatever. That's bullshit. There are not a lot of people who could easily do what Greg Doyle does as well as he does it. That's just not true. They would be losing a lot by losing him. It's not that he couldn't. It's not that he's irreplaceable. We're all replaceable. But sometimes there's somebody who's a good fit, who's done a lot of good work someplace, and they screw something up, and all their good works are worth giving them another shot. It's just this was the worst possible timing and the worst possible one to do in a lot of ways. He would have been better off making an inappropriate OJ joke a week ago or something.
What's inappropriate? Like he's pro OJ?
Yeah, he would have been better off being pro OJ. 100%. Yeah.
Honorary Red Wing stan. My daughter's 5- and 6-year-old soccer team could use some help coaching. Could Graham help? It's Lansing Parks and Rec.
That is my sweet spot. I'm gonna be careful here. But I don't have a lot of coaching experience, but I did coach a 6 and under team, and I thought I was pretty good at it. And I also had some.
How hard is it though? Don't you just tell the kids to stay in the square, and then when a ball comes, kick that shit?
No, because they all follow the ball. The problem is you have some kids. You have to coach every kid a little bit differently, but everybody's got to play the same amount because some kids are really good, and some kids are just figuring out life, and some kids are staring at dandelions, and it's a challenge. But yeah, I'm happy to help.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
JD next. Would bringing in Chucky Hepburn or another starting caliber point really be that bad of an idea for MSU? I'm not sure if Trey Holloman is a true point guard, and there's no guarantee Fears will ever match his potential after getting shot.
It would be a bad idea. It would be a really bad idea because there is a calculus here, and And there is a risk that Fears won't be the player that they thought he was going to be. There is but there's a greater risk that he could be, and he goes somewhere else. He's like, screw this. They're bringing in a senior point guard, and then he's great somewhere else. I'd rather bet on Fears. I'd rather bet on Trey Holloman. I'd rather bet on the culture of a program you built. There's no need for who's a pretty average point guard. Chucky Hepburn does some things well. He's a veteran, and veteran point guards are going to fetch a lot on the open market because there are programs that need them. Michigan State is not one of them, and you don't mess up your roster for that. And those are the things that are going to be really fascinating in the transfer portal going on. Roster construction is difficult. Indiana right now has like a borderline NBA team, except they don't have a shooter. So I would still pick like Calvin or Hope against them right now because they can't shoot the basketball. Like you got to construct these rosters correctly, and you don't. If you think Izzo has been very clear, he thinks Jeremy Fears is ready to run the show. I don't think there's any doubt about that, and he's not going to do anything to screw that up.
JD next. Is this the most fragile this fan base has ever been? A point guard that a portal target went to high school with enters the portal, and people begin metaphorically jumping off buildings because they assume they're a package deal to somewhere else. Everyone needs to take a chill pill.
It's a difficult situation because the portal is doing this, and the player movement era and the lack of certainty. So much of how most fans were built and what they thought was important for a long time is being challenged right now. You used to take an exhale after the season. You'd look at who was on the roster, and you'd go, well, that's kind of who was there. Let's hope these guys develop. Now it's like, let's hope we replace these guys. And it used to be you cared almost entirely about high school recruiting. I haven't heard a single person mention a high school recruit. It's all about the transfer portal now. High school kids don't matter at all. It's not that they don't, but it just feels like it. And then you do get some of them who justify that because the kid today was an early enrollment I saw in college football, early enrollee in January, now in the transfer portal. Should have been in high school. He's already transferred. Like, what are we doing here? You get A.J. Storr at Wisconsin, who's signing with Kansas, 7th school in 7 years, counting high school. Like, it's a weird dynamic. And you don't want to get left behind. You should see what right now is happening with Iowa fans and Wisconsin fans. There's a panic going on that they don't think they have the money. And that's another component of this that, who do you spend on and how much, what that does to your locker room. This is a really tricky place to be in. I think the frustration with Izzo is not that, he's not, it's just that there's not been a lot of evidence that it's not that he's not equipped. That's the wrong word. But there's not been a lot of evidence thus far that he's willing to be on the cutting edge of this. And that, I think, people view as a missed opportunity and a chance they're going to get left behind, even if certain components of the roster are healthy and the culture is healthier. And if he's willing to take that risk, then he should explain it, and people are going to have to make their choice whether they can stand that or not. They're not going to fire him, certainly. And but you look at the roster. How many rosters only really need one or two players, probably two, to really to have a chance to get where they want to go? I mean, MSU's still in a decent spot, but I think the frustration is why not be willing to go and do those things? And I understand. I share your frustration. I feel like I'm some Izzo defender. I'm not his age. I mean, Izzo is doing it differently than I would do it right now. I mean, I would have. I also think I'm probably a better communicator than him in certain ways. Like, I would sit down with Jackson Kohler and Carson Cooper, and I would say, I want you to be part of this program. I really value you. I'm going to probably try to bring somebody in who I think gives a little more of a backstop of security at this position, the 4-5. That does not mean I don't hope you beat them out. That does not mean I don't value you. It does not mean I'm not going to build next season around you. But I've got to make sure we don't have a team like last year where the weak point of not having that position really cost us. That I would have that conversation. And if you lose one of those guys, you lose one of those guys. But I think you can have that conversation, and you can bring in the type of guy who can play either spot so there's some flexibility. That would be my way of going about it. It may not be what Izzo does.
Alan Pearlstein next. Will the Spartans be able to replace Sissoko and Hogard with more talented players at their respective positions next year?
Well, just not having Sissoko, the answer is yes to the first part, because Carson Cooper and Jackson Kohler and Xavier Booker, right? I mean, a big part of last year, and I understand that Kohler got hurt, so there was some need for Sissoko, and Booker certainly wasn't ready to even be on the court for a while, or it didn't look like it. But I do think staying with Sissoko too long was a problem last year. Hogard, they're replacing with Fears. And the hope with Fears is that not just his upside, but that his consistency as he develops is something that Hogard didn't have. And his leadership is something to a level that Hogard lacked a little bit. And so I think those are the things they're hoping. So the answer is internally with Hogard, yes, we'll see it. But just by not having Sissoko, you improve at that position in terms of talent.
Kurt Wisniewski, over under MSU football transfer portal candidates post April 20, 4.5.
I'd go over by 3 or 4. You've already seen, 3 now? Oh, I guess so 4.5 more. That might be the right. It'll be really interesting to see how much guys are staying right now that who are saying they're all bought in are truly bought in. How many guys? Keep in mind, there are a lot of guys who just weren't recruited. If you're not recruited by a coach and you don't see yourself in the too deep, there's just very little reason to stick around these days. And so I don't blame you necessarily. I mean, you got so much time to play, and if you don't feel like this is the right fit, so I would definitely say over.
And these schools are paying for these guys to move, right? Like you talked about Storr, right? 7 teams. It's like since high school or whatever. Do universities say, all right, and then send you money to help you travel?
Well, and here's the thing with it's not just that. Like Storr is getting probably at least $750,000 $1 million to play at Kansas.
Yeah,
next
but
year.
up front, when does that all trickle in?
It's a good it's a good question. Right now, he's looking for a payday he couldn't get at Wisconsin. And I think when he left St. John's for Wisconsin, he was looking for stability, a program that was in a better place, a different experience. And now he's looking to cash in because there are no guarantees at the level beyond that at the NBA for him. I don't entirely blame him. The thing that he's such a guy who was moved around so much in high school, it's just hard to...
Yeah, but it's hard to blame these guys when you're a phone call away from someone offering you $1 million.
No, it's a tricky spot. I don't necessarily blame them. I don't necessarily blame
different teams every year if I could, with all that money flying around. David Jackson next. Tariq Skubal and Casey Mize are the real deal. And if the two of them remain healthy, can and will the Tigers win more than 85 games, considering all the games played against bad divisional foes? And from Kurt Wisniewski, over under Tigers wins 74.
Buenos tardes. It is time for the Detroit Tigers Gambling Update with Gramanito Couch and Jason Nick.
So I go over 74. And here's why.
Hope so.
They played a really good Rangers club. And, yeah, they lost the series, but they were in every game. And even when they didn't, Maeda is not pitching well. And even when in that game they wound up hitting well, like they were really right there with Texas in every single game. They look like a competitive team. I think they're going to be pushing 500 all year long, and so I'm going to go. Can they get over 85? Yeah, I mean that
they had to start hitting. I know it's obvious, but
yeah, right. I mean, the division's not great. That certainly helps.
It's not great, and pitching's decent for the Tigers.
It's really good. The bullpen's been great. The top couple starters have been really good. Yeah, just the bat. You got to see something out of the bats. They don't have a single thing that looks like their lineup looks so easy to get through sometimes. They're going to have to, if they don't add a bat, I think 85 is probably.
Well, when one of the guys puts a bandana over his eyes and just takes 3 cuts and then goes back down, but makes a miraculous dive at shortstop and great play, and then he's back. He's awesome. Javi, love Javi.
By the way,
don't understand.
No, it doesn't like
McCoskey is like he's just singing the praises of this guy. It's like, all right,
of Javi. Yeah,
God,
yeah, I can't.
If Javi does anything, you see Twitter timeline just, Javi, classic Javi Baez. Absolutely classic.
But if you are a fan of Javi Baez, Groovy Donuts will do a Javi Baez donut for you. right? Or they'll do a Tiger's donut. Probably a better thing to do.
I'm about to say I want to punch that donut, so I want to eat it.
Groovy Donuts is here for your customized donuts. If you're somebody like AJ Store, who goes to 7 different schools, and you've got graduation parties every year, you're going to need Groovy Donuts because that's a great way to throw a memorable party because you need something that stands out, right? If you're going to ask people to come back every single time, or if you're just doing one graduation party this year, or you're doing any sort of open house or any sort of gathering in the backyard, or just want 6 great donuts to enjoy yourself on a warm weekend in the spring or a cold weekend, Groovy Donuts is here for you. Go to groovydonuts.com, place your order today, whatever it might be. School mascot, school logos, Javi Baez, you name it, they are here for you. Or swing on by either location. Pick up a half dozen. Pick up a dozen. Pick up a bunch for your class. You want people at your work to like you? Groovy Donuts is here for you. They will get you 2 dozen, 3 dozen, whatever it might be. Go to, again, groovydonuts.com in 2 locations, Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing and in Williamston. They're open 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday.
David Jackson, when a player enters the portal, should he have to pay for prorated tuition for the rest of the semester? And all stipends and NIL money immediately be halted? If they're free agents and employees or independent contractors, why not? Transactional relationships work both ways.
Yeah, but the thing is, and this could all change a little bit, is the schools, is more NIL is underneath the school umbrella. But the NIL is essentially, or 3PS as we now call it, STTP, whatever you want to, the third-party salary is now something that is, again, it's the third party. You can't, the NCAA isn't going to create a rule that controls this. The NCAA is feckless and can't control shit, right? I mean, I wish they would have a little bit more of a backbone on certain things, but they have not. And now I'm not saying that the NCAA should prevent people from getting paid. I'm talking about usually the transfer portal stuff and making guys sit out. That would be where I would try to do something. Because here's the thing. Right now, I joked about this on Twitter the other day, Jason. But I do think,
joke on Twitter?
I do think if you and I wanted to play Division III basketball, and we're good enough to do so, that we could go do so, or anybody. All you got to do is sue. It's all you got to do, because it's everybody's right. It's your right. Not, I mean, you don't get in my way of making a living of my college experience. If I could go to Michigan State tomorrow and be a student, then I can go play. It's the same deal with you don't have to sit out a year. Everything is everybody's right to do everything. Everybody's got unlimited fucking rights. And so my right is to play on next year's MSU basketball team if I'm good enough, and I sue, I could get on that roster. I'm telling you right now, that's where we're headed. We're headed to guys who are 35 years old still playing college sports. We're headed to guys coming back in their 40s to play D3 because there's just no, what's the argument against it? And how is the argument against it any different than some of the things now that the NCAA is losing constantly in the courts or at least giving way to? But in terms of, you're not going to halt NIL money, and I don't know that it look, I mean, there are reasons that guys are not in the portal yet who will be in the portal. Some guys are waiting for final NIL payments because they do get halted. I mean, look what SDL did last year. They halted that because a lot of the guys who were making the most money for Michigan State's football team and the 12 to 15 guys they were really paying or whatever it was were guys who were not even on the field. And it was like, and the guys they were sure were going to transfer. And it was like, what are we doing here? And the guys who were on the field weren't making anything. And so, I mean, depending on the contract, you can tear a lot up, and and ultimately it wound up being the downfall partly of SD4L is people don't trust them. That brand has been hurt. They got to move on. It might be the same thing, and it might, but hopefully it has a little bit better operation with Greg Williams' Spartan Nation NIL. But it is that brand was damaged beyond repair that day to me. But I also understand if you're somebody who's funding the whole damn thing and you feel like it's not going to the people actually even playing and this whole thing's a mess, why you wouldn't want to play anymore. So, and if a guy leaves early and you don't feel like they're fulfilling their commitment, absolutely you can pull out. This is going to be much more transactional, and it's going to get ugly at times, but this is what people have asked for.
David Jackson, when you announce your show as starting at 3 o'clock and Firekeeper sets the over-under of the beginning at 3:20, should I bet the over? Usually,
yeah. So, yeah, I
don't think we'd ever be at 3:20 though.
Well, no, yeah. If it's anything after that, we Ebling's
but I
got
get what
the
you're
studio.
saying, David.
Yeah. We usually here's the way it goes. we ideally would love to start then. But I don't even know, like when I usually send that tweet, I'm not even here yet. So I don't realize how much.
Breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah. And sometimes there's stuff that still needs to be done, or, we're coming from other jobs, or sometimes it's optimistic and I still got like 15 Twitter questions to edit. So but yes, if that bet is ever on the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook, take the over.
Dan Grafe, does Jason ever get tired of hearing the same grammanisms? No, I don't think so.
Thank
I mean,
God.
the ones on Twitter fascinate me, of your same take, and then like when you follow someone around, like you have a good take, and then you go to other people's tweets and then fire it off on theirs, and then go to someone. That shit's fascinating to me. But your grammanisms, I'm just so used to now. It's second nature, I guess.
Oh yeah, they're not going anywhere. So I'm glad he's not tired of them.
I don't know. It's part of the show. Gavin Haas, thoughts on the new Lions uniforms? Apparently, this question's for both of us. And why are they now the greatest uniforms in the NFL?
Did you like them?
I do. I did. I just feel like I'm 45 and I give them a glance and I go, I do like them, but I'm not as intense as some others who think they're shit or garbage. I love the black and the blue for the helmets on the black with the black jerseys. I think it's you got to try something different than the Barry Sanders, the blue ones with the number as like full white. I think they all three look good.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think they were bad. I was worried about that because the Lions have classic uniforms, and I don't want them to screw anything up. Tremendous. So I was fine with them, and I'm always dubious about that. By the way, Izzo T Spartan Dog tweeted us. Apparently, the game. I take back everything I said about 7:30 a.m. and stuff. There is a recording of it.
Oh, thank God!
Online, so it can be found there
with commercials.
I don't know. I have not listened. So it apparently is there. I apologize. We'll fix that in post.
I miss Mad Dog. Gavin, no, we read that. Gavin, no. What would this football offseason feel like if one of Hauser or Levitt were starting instead of Childs?
Well, and I know you're a big Caton Hauser guy, Gavin, so I'll be a little careful here. People would not be excited about a Caton Hauser-led offense. People still had some intrigue and excitement about Levitt. I was president of that club, and I think there would be if there was no Aiden Childs, like he was never part of the picture, and Levitt was slated to be the starter. I think there would be plenty of buzz because people would be intrigued by him. I don't think Caton Hauser was going to have that sort of intrigue, and whether he got a fair shot or not is tough. I mean, he was the starting quarterback in just an awful season to endure. But he didn't, and he might have developed, and hopefully he still will, into a really good quarterback. He just didn't show a lot within that season, like he was a guy who could really elevate a team. And so those are two very different deals, Hauser and Levitt, I think.
Next one from Gavin. Is this Tigers slump an early sign of disappointment, or is it trying to figure out early season problems and everyone getting into rhythm?
Well, they're above 500, right?
Depends on who you ask, yeah. I guess.
I mean,
they're related.
There are definitely some problems. Their lineup is a problem.
So should we not tune in until like 50 games into the season? Because I feel like if you're too critical now, it's way too early in the season. It just sucks watching them play like shit sometimes. And I think it's totally fine if you want to get and rip their ass a little bit. It's not like I'm jumping off the ship, but God damn it, when you see these guys time after time not hitting, and it happened last year as well, it's just like enough. We want to see some sort of progress.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's. I think it's fair to be frustrated and concerned, and I just think just understanding not to have final judgment too early is all there is. It's 100% fair to be frustrated.
Sure.
Especially, I mean, it's
baseball. It takes forever.
But
Javi Baez, you can be certain about that.
Yeah, that hasn't worked. And they're going to have to – there's no way he finishes his contract in Detroit. There's no way.
Oh, man. There's a bet. Some dude next. Guys, what phrase is better? Here's the thing. The thing is, that's the thing. And which one does Graham use at least 3 times every show?
Here's the thing.
I think you pepper all of them in, pretty much.
That's the thing. I don't know. Now that I read it, I have no clue.
Like when I used to listen to Howard Stern all the time, he would say, in other words.
Yeah.
Like when you listen to something for a while, you definitely get annoyed by the people. And I'm sure we are guilty of saying the same thing.
100%. Yeah.
Some dude, are the Tigers leaning towards being good or bad? I think pitching is harder to get good at, so I'd say we're on the good side. What say you? It feels like it's starting to get good.
It's competitive, at least.
I just think that having to deal with Miggy over the past 2 years, and now you look at Javi Baez, and you just want to move on, so you get a young person in there to feel like everybody's moving forward, and it just seems like some of the guys are just not going to be successful. So why do we have to keep seeing these guys?
Yeah, I mean, I do think there is some of it still assessment of guys, and there are going to be some other young guys maybe joining the roster this year. And you have to do that. It's part of the process is figuring out who's going to be a player for you and giving them a chance at every level.
How much longer do we have to watch that guy?
Well,
Matt Manning sitting down there.
Yeah. Matt Manning should pitch. That's ultimately the problem when you're if you're not performing. Is first of all, move him to the bullpen, put him in long relief, and if he gets it back, then give him another start, like whatever. But Matt Manning's looked pretty good in 2 starts. I would go to Matt Manning right away. So the answer to your question is they're on the competitive side, which is better than it's been. But it just feels like, it's sort of like Tom Izzo in the transfer portal. A little concerned they didn't have enough hitting. They didn't really add a bat, and now they need a bat. And it's like, why didn't you add a bat? And easier said than done. It was not a great free agent class, but it's something that I would like to see them do if they're in the hunt, and I think they're going to be in the hunt because I don't think the division's great. I'd like to see them do that in season, is at least add a consistent professional bat.
Jordan Bunt next. Describe the perfect 420 Saturday, Rube. Oh, well, without sounding like a live read from Couch, definitely tomorrow. Wake up, little wake and bake joint. Hopefully, look at the phone. Izzo signs a 5. Got that momentum going in. Head down towards Frandor to the 420 thing at Pure Option. Starts at 10 a.m. I like to get in a little early. Possibly if we can get some golf in after that and then come back, maybe see Sean Kingston at the end of the evening, head home.
It's a good day.
Watch some Dateline. Hell yeah. That's pretty much it, but I'm old now. Spartan 18770 next. With the large amount of NIL money and the transfer portal together, many of these student athletes are basically free agents for hire. Is it time to treat them like professional players rather than college kids?
I'm a little torn on this because they are college kids and they are of a certain age. I've always said you treat a 19-year-old different than you do a 26-year-old pro. Yeah. But there are young pros, like the guys who, Kobe Bryant goes straight into the pros, or guys who, go to pro early after a year of college. And so if a guy could have been a junior in college, but he's in his second year in the NBA, do you treat that guy differently now than a guy who's a junior in college? I think these are questions. And there is money involved. They will be people are still people, though, and I think if you're looking for reasons to hate somebody based on the amount of money they're making, or be angry at them or less patient with them, that's probably the wrong approach anyway. The business side of it is the business side of it. The question is, do they show up and perform, how they treat people themselves, and all those, and who they are as people.
And start here, how old are you? Like, put yourself in an 18-year-old shoes of getting that kind of scratch, because I know we talk about it all the time, Graham, of how stupid we would act with that kind of money. So you have to treat them as young professionals who have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 100%.
I just can't blame these guys, especially if there's no rules. I just really have no fault with anything that they're trying to get, or, I know people are pissed off at the amount of money, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, they're pissed off that something they loved is changing and is less secure, and I understand that. And
there should be more rules in place. I understand.
And to be honest, if the way college sports is operating today was the way it tried to begin, college sports won't exist. It exists and it works in this realm because there are enough of us who are obsessed with alma mater, obsessed with the teams, to the point that you'll put up with it or you'll take part in it, even if you don't love it. And
it's hard to be obsessed when we talk about teams like Iowa who are not going to put money into it. And when you're obsessed, you want your team to put up a little bit of money.
Yeah.
So that obsessiveness will go away from some teams.
But the problem is, who puts up the money? It's fans. It's donors. It's mostly donors. But the point is, if you're relying on the outside folks and how much money you have in that component to compete now, which is frustrating and a lot to ask of people, and it's just not a sustainable system. NIL will be part of things. It's not, and it's going to change here quickly. whether it's something better and whether we like it and whether there are greater ramifications, and who knows. But this is not going to look exactly like this.
If you're NIL, if you have $1 million to use, are you a contender whatsoever in NCAA basketball?
No.
I think if it's capped at $1 million, you just have no shot.
But yeah, and you can't. Yeah, you're right. You're not going to. You need, to me, to build a roster that can compete and retain players consistently. You probably need minimum at the highest level now. And you're going to lose guys, but you could still build something and do it well.
Could you hit lightning in a bottle with $1 million NIL kind of thing?
But you couldn't retain those guys.
Yeah,
$2.5 million minimum, and in football, you probably need $8 to $10 million minimum to keep something rolling at any sort of level. And even then, you're probably not, like, to put it in European soccer terms, a Big Six club. And so that's. I think we're getting closer and closer to a European soccer model. The problem is we don't have as any compensation when you lose guys. And that's where there's frustration. In English soccer, a guy goes and plays for Brentford and has 3 great years, or a young player somewhere else, and he gets sold to a bigger club for a lot of money. But that club is then able to use that money to go buy new young players and replace them. And that's what doesn't exist. You just lose something for nothing. And it's not a system that I find very fun to follow. I'm very much in the mode here of now. This is different with quarterbacks and football, and probably a great running back or receiver, and in basketball it's different because there are fewer players. But largely with football, for example, show me who the lineup is in August. Show me who the team is. I'll cover it. Simeon Barrow jumping into the portal for the 4th time, as we're going to get into the Twitter questions. I like Simeon. Good dude. Talk to him. Guys come from tough situations. They're trying to take care of themselves and make money. I don't have any beef with that. Why would I? But I'm just not going to get all wrapped up in like who's coming and going, because there's so much of it right now, and what that actually means to a roster the next year. We'll reconvene in August. And maybe that's healthiest. Maybe we find a way to ignore it for a while.
Spartan 18770, with the amount of players jumping into the portal, will fans really care to go to the spring game? No real game, and not knowing who will be there in the fall. Do fans just say F it and start paying attention come late August?
Well, Pure Options is having their block party is a definite pull away. But no, I do think there could be some of that. People just don't care all that much. I think weather is a bigger part of it, though. It's going to be a little chilly. If it had been a really warm day, it would have helped. You got a new quarterback, new coach. There are going to be 4 periods of scrimmage. I think people will be into that. I don't think it's awful. But I do think there's less feeling like that's your team on the field, or there's less bonding going on with the roster. And over time, that's not good. It's not good for the sport. It just isn't.
Next one from Spartan Graham. I believe I speak for all the listeners here. When are you getting your belly tattoo, or are you just going to ignore the facts? Just admit that you will never get it and be done with this whole charade.
Welcome to the blue wall.
Yeah, I'm not done with this charade. I'm not.
Well, of course you're not, because it means that there's a belly tattoo.
I'm not getting the blue belly tattoo though. I couldn't. I mean, can you? I mean, no, they just can't do it. There's
all right.
Yeah.
Well, trying to bet.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't owe.
How about at the bottom of the foot?
Do I owe anybody the belly tattoo right now? Or is it?
According to Spartan,
I don't think I do yet. I don't think I do.
Okay.
I might have to do the reporting myself, but I don't think I do yet.
Dead dude next. I don't know all the ins and outs of how the NIL works, but could there be, in theory, a special section or suite at sporting events for those who want to donate to it and use it to collect money that way? Maybe have added perks in the seats. Just a random thought.
I actually really like this idea. I think they need to be more creative with NIL, and I think they need to be more on top of it with their engagement. And that's something that Greg Williams' group and or any other team or school around the country, you ought to have a system in place that you know who your donors are. You're engaging constantly with them. And there are ways within games and events to be part of the contribution. And you can have a suite. You can be part of the suite. If I'm Greg Williams, I've got maybe it's the Huntington Club or whatever it is at Spartan Stadium, but I've got a big area where if you're willing to donate a certain amount to NIL for that Saturday, you get to be part of that suite. You know what I mean? There's lots of creative ways that need to go into this if this is going to be the system. No, without question.
How much would that hypothetical would you have to donate, though, to get into that suite?
Well, that's a good question. If you're willing to give, this would be like your donation for the if $1,000 gets you in, it's a lot of money, but it'd be a big donation. I mean, that's the whole point. Yeah. I mean, if you're willing to give $1,000, you ought to be able to be in a suite for a game. By the way, just Sean Windsor texted me a column that I'm from Candace Buckner at the Washington Post. A reporter's gesture to Caitlin Clark was dumb. So is a lot of the anger. So now we're going to start seeing the backlash. Let me read you a tiny bit of this. All right?
Yeah.
The outrage, well, in a word, it's outrageous and self-righteous, but most of all, it's insincere, and it's gushing from all those counterfeit champions out there on social media tripping over themselves to stand sentry over a damsel in distress, but really doing only so because they now get to throw haymakers at some guy they hate. What's more infuriating than the Indianapolis Star columnist Greg Doyle's whiff of a welcome toward basketball phenom Caitlin Clark on Wednesday, a highly unprofessional, inscrutably brain-dead moment from a credentialed journalist. It's the army of receipt-keeping reactionaries and easily offended sports fans barging into a movement alongside a rightfully enraged woman, alongside rightfully enraged women. While women's sports are experiencing a tidal wave of interest and coverage from the mainstream media, the gatekeepers are having to keep their dukes up against threats, real and perceived, that may try to belittle this process. These are women who are.
Do they have a paywall? Keep going.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't
have to.
Anyway,
I agree, though.
I was hoping to get more of the. It'd be an interesting piece to read. I haven't obviously read the whole thing. I don't know why I read part of it on air. We'll fix that in post. We'll take it out.
Oh, no, that was good. I just was saying, if they have a paywall, just read the whole thing.
I didn't see all that. There was a lot of piling on Doyle because some people don't like him, and there was a lot of, I mean, the guy screwed up in a big moment badly.
And he apologized.
Yeah, and you don't have to like him. You don't have to read him anymore. And that can be the calculus that the news organization can then make. That like, hey, people aren't reading him anymore. We got to get rid of him.
Doyle on a regular basis, is that really what's going to get you to stop reading him? Because I think that his personality and he does things like that. It
was a big F up, no question. It was a big
F. Of all the things, is it the biggest F up? Well,
here's why.
Can you not recover from that?
Because the instinct to think you could do that in that moment was not great.
Sure.
And that's concerning. That's concerning. That's what I would say.
But I think Greg apologized and said that he's going to try to learn from it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
The guy got hammered.
He did get hammered. He got hammered. He got hammered as much as, and he got hammered by some really good points and a lot of points that weren't is strong.
Steve, next. Do we have data on the number of portal players, football and basketball, that do not find new teams or lose their full ride scholarships?
Some of that data is out there a little bit. Just in terms of guys who went into the portal, guys who signed, and but and I think I did something on this a year ago. I'm not going to look it up now because it would take me a minute. There is data on it, and it's not great. I mean, there's a lot of people who get into the portal. The overwhelming number of people who get in the portal do not find a spot or a better spot, I would say, is pretty obvious at this point. And so while it is, everybody's right to do that, I think the other thing that is fair for coaches is if you get in the portal, you're giving up your spot. That is the transactional element I get behind. Now, you may love a player enough that you decide you want to take them back. But as soon as a player gets in the portal, you owe that player nothing. Your commitment to them is over because they've ceased their commitment to you. And so that would be something. But, overall, this is not good for student athletes, not good for the sport. It is not. People can tell you it is because there's lots of interest, and they love the recruiting dynamic, and that gets a lot of pages and clicks and all this shit. Over time, this will not overwhelmingly help college athletics in terms of funding all of them, in terms of interest in the major sports, because so many fan bases are going to be discouraged, and they're not going to recognize what they used to love. And overall, it's going to hurt the size of the overall fan base and interest.
Ryan Schultz next. Why do we talk about Izzo miscalculating last year, but forget the year before? Dude lost Bingham and Marble, had only Madi coming back at the 5. Said, F it, I don't need a transfer. I'll rely on a guy I already know stinks and 2 white freshmen. Are we supposed to forget that? And from Go Green, what will be the game plan if Izzo doesn't pick up a portal center despite it being a need for 2 years?
I'm not asking you to forget anything, Ryan. I'm also not Tom Izzo, so I don't know. I don't.
But like you said, he's going to have to explain.
Right.
He's going to have a press conference.
And at some point, if he does not,
something.
It does not, add to his front court, then I'm going to have to write that column, right? I mean, I'm not afraid to write that column. I'm just going to let it play out is all I'm saying. I mean, the reason I love this show, and we do hot takes and Twitter questions, so we respond to things multiple times a week. That's not the pace in which I'm going to operate in terms of definitive opinions on things with my column, because I want to have all the information and I want to know why, and then I'll come to my own opinion about whether it was the right move or not. I think I've been pretty clear on what I think they ought to do. In terms of miscalculating last year, and forget the year before, that they had lost Bingham and Marble and had only Madi coming back. I think, and I get you with the 2 white freshmen. I make fun of white people as much as possible. I don't like being one. But it is I also think there was evidence that Carson Cooper was really progressing fast. I think they thought they had something Kohler. I think they and I didn't think this, they still thought they had more to get out of Madi. And that is miscalculating. You can say it's badly miscalculated. The game plan, if they don't get his portal center, is to ride with the guys you got. But I also think it's you have to look at the other moves they make. If it's 2 wings, say it's another 6-7 wing, and it's Trey Townsend who can play the 3-4, and then you're going to also use Booker a little at the 5. I mean, say if you had Frankie Fiddler, Trey Townsend, and Booker in a lineup. That's a really skilled, intriguing lineup to go along with Jaden Akins and Jeremy Fears Jr. or something like that, And I also think, and I know people have given up on these other guys, but maybe this is the year that Carson Cooper makes the jump. Maybe this is the year that Jackson Kohler is healthy and it starts out well, and you see a lot of the things that intrigue them about bringing him in. Again, would it be the way I would go right now? It is not. But that is, I've told you I would bring in a 4-5 who could rebound and defend and give you some flexibility there at minimum. And but I don't know that that's the way they're going to go.
I hate being white. What would you change your color to if you could? Like, snap your fingers.
Well, so this is I say that in jest, because there are, when I show up at a pickup game as a white guy, it is not advantageous, but I do live a life of white privilege.
Billy Hoyle.
So I'm not also going to knock it entirely. Like, for me to sit there and say that I would prefer the experience a black man goes throughout their lives would be stupid, would be beyond dumb. And so I'm not going to say that.
It's got to suck. Everybody likes you, and the claim is you have a big mule. Like, that's the theory about being black. It's is terrible.
Yeah, I think there are other things they deal with,
2024? Oh.
In this perfect world?
Hey.
Yeah.
Bo McJunkins. Did James Edwards sum up how every MSU fan feels about some of the recruiting? Tom built an elite standard. His recruiting hasn't matched as much as it should, and that's coming from someone who likes Cooper and Kohler. But we needed an elite center while they develop.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to James about MSU is I've had these conversations, and I know how he feels. And he's a smart basketball guy. And so, there are lots of smart basketball fans out there who feel this way. It is not a flying off the handle opinion to think that what Michigan State has at center is not adequate, because it wasn't adequate last year. It is not. Now, to act like they understand all the dynamics, or I understand all the dynamics with what they're trying to keep and build and do, and some of the stuff with Xavier Booker that I think was probably more something that needed to be tiptoed around than even I completely understand, at least in terms of on the record information. It's possible, but there's no doubt that they. To your other point here, Bo, though, his recruiting hasn't matched as much as it should. His recruiting's been pretty good. I don't think his high school recruiting's been a problem. It's been the transfer portal. His recruiting's been really good. Last year's class was a really great class in terms of ranking and in terms of possibilities and production down the road. And for more than a decade, it's been a 4-year group where he didn't hit. He didn't hit in 2018. He's missed a few guys here and there, but he's recruited pretty well late in his career, especially given that he built his recruiting around a state that is largely dried up in terms of high school talent.
Bo McJunkin's next. Is there anything better than Graham saying Troy Weaver is a great talent evaluator and then telling us not sure what Dern will be? Ivy has problems, says Matt Painter, and Killian Hayes got minutes for too long. But hey, we ain't the Bulls.
Yeah, I mean, I do stand by most of this, though. They're not the Bulls. It's better to be like the Bulls are fun to watch the other night, but the Bulls aren't going anywhere, and their contracts are a mess. I mean, you other than having a great moment in the play-in, you'd rather be the Pistons.
Yeah, but your owner's a weirdo, and you have Monty Williams who has still owed $100 and some mil. And
find me an NBA owner who's a little bit of a weirdo.
Phoenix Suns. All right. Bo McJunkins outscored 52-3 in 4 games, 54 hit batters in 33 games. Tell me one reason Jake Boss should keep his job. Facilities aren't the reason Michigan talent is leaving the state or choosing CMU over MSU.
Well, it's difficult right now because they're having a season. He hasn't won in a long time, and they're having a season that's awful. And they've had some really, I wouldn't say awful season, but it's not a good season. And they've had some results that are awful, that stand out. And that's the thing you don't want if you're struggling, right? And you want one reason, though. If you're just looking for a reason, and I'm not saying it's right. I like Jake Boss personally. I want him to succeed because I like him personally. At some point, though, if it's not working, it's not working. But if you want a reason for why you should keep somebody, it's that you built a baseball stadium in a fucking floodplain. You play a sport. I mean, you've chosen to compete in a sport. I mean, not every Big Ten school has baseball, by the way. You've chosen to compete in a sport that is played in miserable conditions most of the season. And there are,
then scrap it then. If you don't really care. I mean, if you don't have the facilities and you don't care if
it is hard. It is hard. It's hard to come up with reasons why somebody else shouldn't get a shot, right? I totally get that. I totally do. I also have not covered an actual MSU baseball game in person in 12 years. And so my rule with that is this. If a sport is not important enough for me to cover, which means it's not important enough to the general fan base, because if the fans really cared about MSU baseball, I would be out there. Then I'm also not in a position to call for somebody to be fired. If they get fired, we'll get into why it didn't work and what they should do next. But the same thing happened with Jackie before with softball. How many softball games did I ever covered? 0. So I'm not in a position to go out and say, well, damn it, then get somebody else in.
Yeah, but you can do the math with Alan Haller. He's trying to get all of the individual programs at the right place. And
100%.
The 100%. Baseball program isn't it. And Jake Boss is a nice guy, but sometimes you just got to do the tough things. So
I'm totally with that.
Just let him keep coaching, right? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I would take, and I don't know everything in terms of their limitations with the recruiting, and because some of the sports do have that, where you have to have a certain amount of Michigan kids, and that limits you in other things. But when you talk about choosing CMU, if that's happening regularly, that's an issue. You should be choosing MSU over CMU more often than not.
MZA, what's the plan B if MSU doesn't land Frankie Fiddler?
I don't know if it's just because Townsend's a different player. If they get a guy like that from Oakland or who the other guy, there are wings popping into the portal now. There will be more good wings, and so it'd be interesting if they, I don't know. I don't know what the plan is, because you can get guys who are more athletic than Fiddler, and are different in that sense. I kind of would like them. I've gone a little back and forth on this. If I were them, I would want Townsend, because even though he's more of a 4 in a lot of ways, and he can play the 3, but he's a different kind of player than anybody they have right now. He's got a little Malik Hall to him, but to be honest, I think he's even though he played at a lower level, I think he's a better version in some ways. The best of Malik Hall is pretty good, but when you look at their roster next year, a guy can play the 3 or the 4, and the things you want to do with Booker, especially if you decide to stand pat at the 5, I think would be really helpful.
MZA, how likely is it that we go into next year without getting a big percentage-wise?
Without adding a power forward or center, exclusively, I would say, and not counting Townsend in that, I would say this is just me spitballing with vibes and little things I've heard, but not having anything concrete. I would say 60, 70%.
All right, next one from MZA. Is there a world where you can see the football team eclipsing 8 wins?
Sure. Yeah, I mean it not easily, but you've seen charmed years before where things go well, where you win close games, where guys stay relatively healthy. You got to win. You just got to win the games that are winnable, and then upset somebody. And if you have quarterback play that's above maybe what you're expecting from even a sophomore, and your defense is better than you think, and you get off to a decent start, there is a possibility to get to 9. You can see how that could happen. I don't think it's going to happen. Like, I think this year, as much as you have an offensive, I think you've got a good offensive mind as your head coach and probably a good offensive staff in place. I think they're going to struggle offensively. I do. I think that's going to be the struggle of this year. I think the defense is going to be okay. It doesn't mean I think they're going to be awful offensively. I just don't think they're going to be, unless that really comes together. That's reading the tea leaves. When you listen to everybody break down what they're seeing so far, and again, it's spring football, and they're trying to figure it all out. They're learning the system. But it just seems like that's the area they're going to struggle this year.
Dave Lakin next. Hey, Graham, why were you holding the Channel 6 microphone at the Jonathan Smith spring scrimmage presser on Tuesday? Are you moving on from the print media to broadcasting? You know, they say the camera adds 10 pounds.
That's why I stood behind Fred Human, which was not saying, actually, he was like posting me up. I felt the all of Fred Human. It was rough. Fred does not give up his space easily. I thought I had Fred's spot. Fred just came in there, and it was rough. But yeah, we do that sometimes. Like
backed into you.
You could say that. The scrums are big enough that people can't reach with their recorders, other things, and you help people out, friends in the media, so to speak. Let's take a really quick break. We come back, more of your groovy donut Twitter questions. Couch in the Rube, presented by Pure Options, precision crafted cannabis, and our friends at Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app.
Hey, sports fans, are you tired of the same old routine? Looking for a way to unwind after a long day? Look no further than Pure Options, the premier destination for all of your cannabis needs in Lansing, Detroit, Muskegon, and Mount Pleasant. Whether you're cheering for the Lions, Spartans, or the Wolverines, Pure Options has everything you need to elevate your game day experience. And here's the best part. Mention Couch in the Rube when you visit Pure Options and get a free GoPro 8 with a $50 purchase. It's our way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. Swing by Pure Options today and elevate your cannabis experience to a whole new level. Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play from your phone, tablet, or laptop. Get in on all the football action with pre- and in-game wagering. There's showdowns every week in football that you can't miss. Plus, the college and pro hoops are red hot, and the pucks are cool. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team? Enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi. Sip on handcrafted cocktails or one of 46 beers on tap. Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen, Bar, or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with 1 awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes Couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch in the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at gomuskox.com, where Couch and the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF. Come enjoy irresistible, award-winning, handcrafted donuts and locally roasted coffee at Groovy Donuts. Surprise your family or coworkers with special holiday designs and flavors, or put the perfect finishing touch on an event with a custom order. Birthdays, weddings, gender reveals, our friends at Groovy Donuts are your answer. Experience the Groovy Donuts difference for yourself on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston. Get more information or place an order at groovydonuts.com.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch in the Rube, presented by Pure Options, precision crafted cannabis, where cannabis meets community, and you can meet Pure Options as a community on Saturday from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. or so. Therefore, at their 420 Lansing block party at their Frandor location, Sean Kingston, Desmond Jones, DJs, and more. Consumption event, live games, food trucks, lots of good stuff there. Great deals going on as well. That's at Pure Options, the Frandor location. Back to your Groovy Donut Twitter question.
Dave Lakin next. The Blue Wall was working their magic by preferring to call the NCAA sanctions against Michigan as a negotiated agreement. How do you think they'll spin the Stallions sanctions when they come down?
Yeah, I don't think it was an attempted spin, but I don't know.
Oop.
Yeah.
Hold on. Oop.
What's going on over there?
I got it.
Welcome to the Blue Wall.
Oh, thanks.
It wasn't worth it.
No, it was not. But I appreciate the effort.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I didn't even realize that they had spun it as a negotiated agreement. Sometimes I'm not.
Was it sponsored? Did they have like two of the donors in front of the sanction?
That's it.
Jarrett, why pay Cade Cunningham? Can he really be a top 5 player in the league eventually?
You have to pay him because you're not going. It's hard to get players that good. He still can be, I think, 1 or a 2, probably a 2 on a championship team. That's your hope. And you pay your top 2 guys. And this is also the rookie deal. It's not as much, and the cap's going up. You 100% pay him. You have to pay somebody. And the length of that deal will be no more than the length of the build anyway. So, yeah, you pay Cade Cunningham because he's the most sure, really good player you have. And what else do you have? Not a lot.
Jarrett, would you rather have Draymond or Rasheed Wallace on the Pistons in the mid-2000s?
Ooh, who'd you rather have there?
Like on that Pistons team? Or just like in general right now?
Right now, if you pick him for a player.
Like I said, that Pistons team he fit perfectly on
so
for the
good.
04 championship. They needed a guy like him with his swagger and attitude. I love Rasheed. I mean, Draymond, don't get me wrong, I love Draymond too. I just think Sheed's shooting ability, especially in today's game, would make him elite. So
I'd go Rasheed because I think Rasheed sacrificed much the way what's his nuts on the Miami Heat did. Was the
Dwayne Wade?
Oh, fuck you, man.
LeBron?
The other guy.
Alonzo Mourning.
Hold on.
Harold Miner. Ronnie Cycli. Tim Hardaway.
No,
Senior, not junior.
Chris Bosh.
Oh,
holy crap!
I was just gonna say Bosh.
The worst. Anyway, but and I think he was even better than Bosh. Bosh is a really good player, but I think obviously he fit well on that team. But I think Rasheed Wallace had more upside than Draymond, and both were great team players.
I don't know if I would take him over Bosh. I mean, Bosh gets shit
That's
out
true.
because
That's true.
He looked like a dinosaur.
That's true.
When he yelled,
Pterodactyl.
when he screamed, but that dude was pretty badass. Mojo Jojo, Jason, can you add the I talk about donuts and make fart noises. It's my strength. Soundbite from Graham at 3330 from Wednesday's show to your passenger mix for when Graham is searching the web for an answer to a player we all know from 2005. Much obliged, sir.
Well, the timing of that.
Did you see that one coming?
I didn't.
I'll have to get to that one.
Yeah. Mojo Jojo. That's
I'm having a hard time because Dominic sent me one too, but I think like it's hard to find out when you give me the exact time stamp, but I'll try. Because like it goes, it's not, it's behind the scenes boring shit, sorry. But it's just harder to find when someone goes, oh, yeah, it's a 33:30 because you're watching it on a certain player.
It's a different,
and I'm going off a Spreaker, and it's just,
right.
I'll try to find it.
Yeah.
Mojo Jojo, what would you call the Simeon Barrow situation at this point, Graham? A pledguationship?
Yeah, I mean, look, here's a guy who came back. He wanted to stick it out with that team. He gave the new coaching staff a chance. Apparently he wants something else. And he's also a guy who comes from limited means who wants to get paid and is a guy who's got value out there. And I don't blame him for that. I really don't. Is it going to hurt him in the NFL? I don't think as a defensive tackle it will.
Mojo Jojo, how many of Hans Jurgen's questions will you answer during your Twitter questions episode with Coach Izzo? For me and many others, anything less than 100% will be unacceptable.
We'll get something from Hans in there maybe. I don't know, because I don't know how many questions we'll do. We'll first of all, I got to make sure Izzo's cool with this. But if I would like to do something where we had like 10 questions from the audience for Izzo. And maybe we can get a Hans one in there.
Jay Riemenschneider, both MSU basketball groups had about the same overall record and no impactful accomplishments. So in your opinion, which group was more disappointing overall? Lawyer, Gabe, Bingham, Kithier, and Henry or Hogard, Walker, Sissoko, Hall, and Akins, with Hauser being intermediary of the two.
Well, I'm going to go with the Lawyer, Gabe, Bingham group because and some of those guys are role players, and not everybody deserves full blame for everything. But I'm going to say that because I think that those guys set up a group that, I mean, they were the issue that led to the issues that still exist, if that makes any sense. I would go with them in terms of a group that bit the program 2018 class.
G.E. Miller, if Izzo doesn't get a transfer bag and fails to make the tournament next year, will you call for his retirement?
I don't know that I'll go that far. But if he doesn't do what seems obvious and it bites them, and that's the reason it bites them, then, I mean, there are lots of questions to be asked about why and what he thought that others didn't. And, I mean, what's the point of keeping a roster together that can't get there? I would be stunned if they don't make the tournament next year just because they don't add a big. Now, if they have like 4 or 5 rash of injuries and it's a bad year or whatever, and that's not the reason, that's different.
G.E. Miller, which Big Ten hoops teams are the biggest halves in the NIL portal era?
I'd say it's Indiana 1, Illinois 2, Michigan State 3, but I think Indiana and Illinois are at another level.
Richard Kane, Magic, Skiles, Smith, Respert, Kelser, 24 couch ranking points. Beats Mateen, Cassius, Denzel, Mo Pete, Draymond, 37 ranking points, right? Magic plus any 4 scholarship players and maybe even a walk-on or 2 beats any other 5, right?
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, Magic, yeah. I mean, I think we'd all take Magic and just about anybody else. Magic, Skiles, Smith, Respert, Kelser is a, yeah. I mean, that's the thing about the Heathcote era is he did not have the depth of stardom. Depth of stars and talent and teams. But his top guys, Magic, Skiles, Steve Smith, Respert, Kelser, they had some really good dudes. The Sam Vincents, but certainly his top group, his top 5 would be a group that would be trouble for any other group.
Richard Kane, y'all have surpassed 900 episodes, a tremendous accomplishment. Bravo. What plans are in the works for episode 1000? A live show filling Spartan Stadium, perhaps? Now that Hooch is available there?
A couple things. In the most...
just sitting there on a table with a headset on.
Full disclosure, in the most couch in the roof thing ever, we are not actually at 900 episodes yet. And it's not actually our fault. Well,
what episode is this one?
It's not anything you've done wrong.
No, sorry, I wasn't offended. I just was like...
Well, it's probably...
Because you always say that, but I'm saying, what episode is this?
Yeah, somehow we missed about 12 to 15 episodes. At some point... I think it was Alex.
It's gained a couple episodes every time.
I think it was Alex Heward's fault, so I'm going to blame Alex. But somebody at some point we misnumbered, like way back when, in like the
that was me. I'm guessing
300s. I don't know, whatever it was. I catch them now. I look very closely.
Who gives a shit? We could have just said we're on 908. Who gives a shit?
You went back to 833 the other day, and I fixed it. We lost like 70 episodes.
Well, thanks for having my back.
Absolutely.
It feels like 900 episodes.
Yes.
Graham Carpenter. What's your go-to order at Front 43?
Pad Thai. I love their pad thai. Just love it. I mean, they have a lot of really good stuff. I love their salmon.
But you always
drizzled.
get pad thai, though, right? Because that's what I do, and Treats makes fun of me. Because if it's something I know I'm going to enjoy and leave happy, I just get it.
I get a lot of different. I mean, their Big Island bowl is my favorite sushi bowl they have there. Just absolutely love it. But the pad thai is this like craving thing I have sometimes there. Yeah.
Graham Carpenter, when you say consumption event, does that mean smoking is allowed?
I'm assuming so. Yeah.
I think you could get away with it.
Yeah, you're going to be okay.
Yeah. Graham Carpenter. Jason, have you ever sneaked any weed into an MSU sports event? Well, that would mean I'd have to go to an MSU sports event. No, but I did walk into Comerica with like 10 joints by accident. I had forgot about them, and they were in my jacket.
But nobody found them?
Well, nobody cares.
Yeah, right.
Who gives a shit? I mean, I didn't smoke any in Comerica. I'm not like a dickhead.
Right. Better that than like having a gun on you when you go in.
Save your hot takes for Sunday or Monday or fucking Tuesday, whenever we do it. DMB Couch, what would you have asked Caitlin Clark if you were Greg Doyle?
Something else.
I love you more than donuts.
Yeah.
I mean, get that out of the way.
Nothing wrong with saying welcome to Indianapolis. There's nothing wrong with that.
If you had to write a column, like imagine if you were Greg Doyle and you had to write a column. Oh my God. I would just stare at the computer screen all day just
waiting, refreshing. Yeah, you would.
Oh man, Greg Doyle. DMB, how much more gaslighting of your readers is needed before you do some real work and report on the Stallions CMU sideline story? Another top 50 column? What the fuck, bro? Maybe it's time to head over to Spartan.
Hey, man, don't let the door hit you. No, I'm kidding.
Hanging out with a pulp.
Yeah, it's on the radar now.
You and Comparoni, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it's on the radar.
Oh, God. Chris Eastlick, did my career peak when my name is associated? He's a local meteorologist, and he fucks with us. And a James Edwards MFer drop. If so, there's no bigger honor than going out with this show.
Chris, I'm...
sorry, man, you're canceled now.
Appreciate it. That's it. Yeah, once you...
We're dropping MFers now?
I did think of you, though. It's funny, when anything weather-related happens, especially alerts, I think of Eastlick right away, immediately. When we were interviewing James Edwards the other day, and that weather alert went off, I was like, fucking Eastlick. And that's all that's going through my head. Yeah.
Next one from Eastlick. The chaos with transfers and the new super conferences has me wondering if I'll even care as much about college football in a few years. I'll still watch, but not as closely. Do you think that opinion is majority or minority?
I don't know yet, but I think it will eventually be the majority. I just think that's where it's headed. I think right now, and it how you do this polling would be tricky, because if you listen to the sort of the people who make their living off this and live in the Georgia and Ohio State worlds and Michigan worlds where football is king and everything is hunky dory, like that is. You get a different result. I think if you truly did a poll right now, you'd start to see some concerning numbers.
Clint Bainey, hey, at least our coach, all our coach did was choke his chicken on the phone and blow multi-generational wealth. Harbaugh leaves Michigan just as everyone knew he would, on probation with a slap on the wrist.
Is there a question there? Yeah.
That's when you win a natty.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want.
I think Michigan State fans would trade it for the national championship.
All right, next one from One Ball. When will the Red Wings next make the playoffs?
Should make it next year. I mean, you can't, like, people are, I mean, they had the type of finish that was invigorating enough that I think people are, even though they missed the playoffs, happy with the fight at the end, even though they had a huge slump, right? Like, but next year you got to make it now, and you got to be you can't even be squeaking in. Like, you got to be a firm playoff team next year.
Clint, when was the last time you thanked a police officer, firefighter, or armed service member for their service?
How about you?
Shit. I mean, today, I guess. I don't know. I mean, what? When we're in line at Jimmy John's, I'll buy a sandwich for a police officer, firefighter, armed service, I guess.
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
The police officers during the whole thing on campus at Michigan State. I said, there's no way in hell. It's a job I wouldn't want to do.
You know how you can really thank a police officer, firefighter, armed services member, or a teacher, or anybody else who gives of service, right?
Mm-hmm.
Box of Groovy Donuts. Go to groovydonuts.com, place your order today, or swing by either location, Lake Lansing Road, East Lansing, or Williamston, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., Thursday through Sunday. You know, Firehouse, you think they show up, box of Groovy Donuts? You know,
cops, I mean, donuts and cops.
Oh, that's true.
Together.
Cops would love it. Yeah, no, absolutely. Anybody you want to thank, Groovy Donuts is a great way to thank them.
Corey Ostrom, shouldn't roster management in college work two ways? Now, in fairness, you can now officially have unlimited transfers, but I would argue the school or coach should have the right to sever ties or dismiss a kid that repeatedly is in the portal or demands a ridiculous dollar figure.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot more transactional stuff. If a kid's in the portal, period, they don't. To me, the kid is leaving their commitment to you, and your commitment to them is done. If you want them back, you can play ball with them, and because they've got value and they have leverage. But as soon as a kid's in the portal, that's it. That's it.
All right, Corey Ostrom. Will some of these basketball and football athletes receive their max career earnings in college if they go pro and it doesn't work out, or if they're passed by in the portal, they are headed into the workforce to become middle and lower class with no education to fall back on?
Yeah, but lots of people make, athletes in other sports and Olympic sports and other things make their max career earnings early. Now, and people can go back to school. And sometimes you have to figure that out in your later in your 20s or figure out what else you're going to do. And college isn't for everybody. And our system forces people to go to college to be athletes. And that's not really fair either.
And you can go back to college.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with this as much. I do think there is concern with the idea that guys are going to make, a lot of people are going to be making six figures and then go into a workforce and make a lot less and have to deal with that. But that's something they're just going to have to deal with. And is it the healthiest thing in the world? I don't know, but probably not. But they have value at this age, and they should be able to capitalize on that.
Tom Lizzo next. NIL should only be paid in season by monthly like pro athletes get paid. Players should not be getting paid only for them to leave before the season even starts. Also, bringing back the transfer weight year fixes this mess. Keep spreading the word. Yeah,
that's what you need to do. Get rid of the one-time transfer, which is not a the one-time transfer rule, because sitting out is not a punishment. And then a lot of this gets tamps down a little bit. Now, you are seeing NIL contracts that are written in ways that money comes to you at a certain time, but sometimes these guys are big enough prospects they can get it whenever because somebody's willing to give it to them, and that's tricky.
Green Daddy next. In addition to all the other things the blue wall is shelving, what is going on with the NCAA sign stealing investigation? I heard on this show a very confident Couch declare about 90 days after the season.
Did I say 90? I said at least 90 days. Yeah, it could happen this summer because I had heard this summer. I'm pretty sure I said that. I would be surprised if at some point this summer that doesn't come out. And the other thing about Connor Stallions, and it does not mean I'm not going to look into this, but I was going back and reading what had been done because we're getting a lot of questions about that. And at some point the NCAA got involved and it became an NCAA investigation as well. So I do wonder if that's one of the reasons if other reporters, and I'll figure this out with the FOIA log and other things, but if other people have been stonewalled who have been looking at it right now.
Green Daddy, whatever happened to the video of the reporter going to Africa? Also, please confirm or deny that A.J. Hoggard has been transmitted a salary through a third party to play in Couch's weekly pickup league, seeing as he won't be at MSU next year.
Yeah, I would absolutely take him on my Gus Macker team. That's for sure. He'd get to the hole. Give me the ball in my shooting pocket. I'd love it. That is Hondo Carpenter, and we'll still at some point I'm going to get that full video.
No, we found, or there was some sort of video, but the page wouldn't load.
Or something. We tried to do it. We'll try that again. The full video isn't out there, but enough of it is that we should get it on the show.
10 seconds is all I need.
Yeah,
really. Green Daddy, why do all mock drafts so-called experts have the Lions look like imbeciles? The ones I have seen have them trading down by giving up picks, then taking a seamstress, followed by a gardener, then finally a porta potty removal guy. Slightly exaggerated, but seriously, what the fuck?
I haven't noticed this, but I haven't read a lot of mock drafts.
No, That's your problem, Green Daddy. What are you doing?
Here's the other thing that's weird.
If they have trades in it, run.
Here's what's weirdly happened to me. Since the Lions are sort of committed to the idea of Jared Goff, and since they're now like an NFC championship team, I have less interest in their draft than I used to. It's interesting because they're like a good team. When the draft was the highlight of their season, I was much more engaged in the draft.
Nonsense. I am going to savor every Brad Holmes draft with my whole being. As someone that suffered through Martin Mayhew and Matt Millen and all these other fuckos.
That's fair.
You know? Green Daddy. Professor, if you participated in a karaoke competition at a local bar, what would be the song you would sing to win it all?
What's your song? What's your go-to?
Enrique Iglesias' Hero.
Yeah. Maybe I do both versions, A Whole New World, or maybe Stars by Les Mis.
Detroit down
God.
to Houston.
You'd lose to this guy,
and
though.
New
I
York
would.
to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time
That's him slapping
we
his chest
stand
over his heart, by the way.
and
I would do,
oh,
God, the worst.
And I'm
He's better. It's better than Lee Greenwood's version, though. But the I would do, I would do Fontaine's "I Dreamed a Dream" from Les Mis.
Oh, boy. Munfield Keg. These pure option live reads have got me thinking, what is your favorite Sean Kingston song? Fire Burning? Couch in Kingston? The crossover I never knew I needed in my life.
Fire Burning is probably, it's catchy. Like, I like catchy things, and Fire Burning is catchy. When did that come out? Like 2010, 11? It's been around. I was like in my, I don't know. Letting Go is not bad, but Fire Burning is the catchy one that I like more than some of his others.
Mean Joel Green. Jason, are the $100 plus after fees tickets worth it for the Black Crowes show in Chicago tonight? What is the proper MG level for the event to make you feel like you're Chris Robinson landing Kate Hudson in her prime? Well, some would say that Kate Hudson landed Chris Robinson because he's a legend. And yes, $100 plus fees. I don't know where those seats would be, but I would definitely go. It depends on your MG intake. For me, I would go 50 MGs to start dancing. But that's me. And obviously people hear that, like my wife, who can somehow still take 5 MGs after all of these years and still act the same, like crazy high. So I have to go the extra level.
Pure options can help you with the recommended limit too. Yeah, they're here for you.
Well, and you'll figure things out.
Yep.
Scooter Tramp, who plays the opening guitar riff on your show? Definitely like to hear more of that.
We found this. Somebody found it. I can't remember who it is, but it was just Doug Warren put it together like right before the show started in 2018.
Maybe it's Doug.
It's just Doug riffing. He's like, shit, we don't have any rights, any music. I'm just going to do this.
Original Dark Antonio. Jason, were you ever a radio station DJ with your own 4-slot, something like the Midday Grind with Nick, or ever a DJ who spins the 1s and 2s at big-time parties and events? I actually lost out to a DJ gig way back in the day at Q106 to the guy that does the at Deja Vu. He's the guy there. He was.
He's the guy who does the announcing. Next on stage, Candy Stripes. That guy.
What?
I don't know.
Candy Stripes.
I don't know. What do they name? I don't know.
That's the worst stripper name of all time.
Sorry.
Candy Stripes? Hey, coming to the stage, Candy Stripes. Anyway, and then, no, the DJ thing, I went and watched a gentleman do it. Like, it was one of those DJ services, and they had me go watch a guy do it at a bar, and I can't do this. I'm just not. Those DJ guys, first of all, that job sucks, complete ass. And I just can't. It's not a job I could do. Or I like playing music, but I just couldn't. Hey, coming at you. It's just that voice. You have to do the whole voice
I could do it.
Whole time.
Yeah, I could do it. In my donuts voice.
Terrible. Neurotic Pants. Are you still missionaries for manscaping? Do you make home visits to demonstrate and exhibit the virtues of pruning the tree?
That was a March Madness special we did with them. But we stand by our experiences, and we hope you did as well.
Yeah. Neurotic Pants. Graham, what are the pros and cons of alternating college quarterbacks? I think MSU should start their backup against Prairie View A&M.
I don't think you should. I think you want to find a quarterback and ride that person and develop them. I do think that it's good to get backups time, and if you should take a 50-point lead against A&M. And if once you have a backup in, I have no problem running your actual offense either. You're not running up the score. If Tommy Schuster comes in, and he's a guy with a lot of experience though, and that's part of the reason I think they got him. Is their hope is that he's a guy who can come in a pinch or in the long term and be able to play right away.
All right, Neurotic Pants. Does Pure Options sell pure CBD? I'm too neurotic for THC. They make products for anybody.
Yeah.
There's CBD. I take CBD myself sometimes. So, CBD, THC.
It's all there for you.
Can help you out, Neurotic Pants. You can get on a lower dose to help you out. Hans Jurgen, pound for pound. Who had a better NBA career, Glenn Rice or Steve Smith?
Give me Steve Smith, slightly.
Pornhub or the field?
Give me the field.
Yeah, I got to take the field. There's a lot of viruses there, though. World Cup or Olympics?
World Cup. Were you Olympics or World Cup?
Olympics.
Okay.
Yeah. Best 5 from Heathcote era or best 5 from Izzo era?
I would take the Heathcote era because you get Magic, Steve Smith, Respert, Skiles, Kelser. I mean, that 5 is tough to beat.
Bill Frieder or Jawan Howard?
Give me Frieder.
The Red Cedar or Olentangy?
River. These are rivers. Give me the Olentangy. If you ever driven that down to Columbus, it's a cool river.
Bluegill or crappie? Bluegill are fun to catch. I don't know about crappies.
Yeah, I don't know. Salmon in there? Yeah, salmon.
Hans Jurgen, can we start talking about MSU football now?
Yeah, that's what we're doing. You put in yes.
Hans Jurgen. Should Lorenzo White, Cousins, Connor Cook, and Kenneth Walker get statues? Because we've really sucked without them.
I don't know. I'm not a big statue guy unless you're a true legend. I think what they do, putting guys up around the stadium, their numbers and names, is good enough. Kenneth Walker, you'd have to really
win a natty.
Yeah, if Kenneth Walker had been like the 2013 team, and that was why they won it. But even so, yeah, you got to win a natty. Yep. I just can't believe you use the word natty.
Hans Jurgen, I'm sorry, was that you can't do that? I say A.J. Hogard was a good defender, ball handler, and passer. Our turnovers this past year were lower than most Izzo teams. The problem was he couldn't score consistently this year. Am I wrong or am I a crackpot? Put him with Tim Duncan and suddenly he's Avery Johnson.
If he'd had better, I still think that A.J. Hogard has issues, but there are a lot of teams and there are rosters throughout Michigan State history that if he had, he would have been fine, and you'd think of him differently. And so that, in fairness to Hogard, and that will be probably the way I always feel.
Jake Hawkins, do you think Detroit can and will ever get a WNBA team back? I guess I'm asking because of the Caitlin Clark fever and the new generation of WNBA stars that sparked women's college basketball.
I would hope so. I think Detroit should be a place that does have a WNBA team. I think there's a need for expansion. I was watching people celebrate the WNBA draft, not realizing that most players picked in the top, not in the top 7 get cut. Tori Jankowska was the 9th pick, got cut, never played. There are only 12 teams. There are very few spots. It's a very hard league to make. They need to expand by 5 or 6 cities, and Detroit should be one of them.
Jake, thoughts on the Robin Freilich landing the recent player out of the transfer portal from Oregon? I forget her name, but how will it help and contribute to the women's basketball team?
Yeah, it was like Van Sloot or something.
Van Sloot, isn't that the guy with the kidnapped the lady?
No, that's not good.
Vandersloot?
Yeah, we shouldn't get these two things confused. Give me one quick second. I want to get her name right.
I am the passenger.
Sorry, it was Van Slooten, Grace Van Slooten.
Oh, close.
It was very close. She had that's a really good get. Sizable, good player, 15.7 rebounds in a good program. That really good sign. They need a point guard now, but really good sign for Robin Freilich's program.
Jake Hawkins, great column on Darius Snow. Do you think he'll rejuvenate himself by having a good season this coming year in football? And looking back, if he hadn't suffered that devastating injury in the 2022 opener, how much different would that season have gone for MSU?
It would have helped because, they also lost, Xavier Henderson, and they needed one of those guys back there for sure. I don't know. I mean, they lost a number of key guys, and offensively they were without Jaden Reed for a while, and but certainly he would have made a difference. And I don't know whether he'll ever be the player. I mean, he had an injury that doctors told him a lot of guys don't come back from ever to the level they were. He thinks he's about 90%, but that extra 10% can be the difference between being a solid player and a pro, and we'll see if he ever gets back there.
Jake, what's with certain MSU football players jumping into the portal, including Simeon Barrow, who's going to during the season, but changed his mind?
Yeah, we have kind of already answered this one, Jake. I should have coupled that with that. Let's go to Upper Deck Jerk Guy.
All right. Can I be a sponsor? I'll give you $1.
Sure. We'll.
See, he's got a great bit whenever I post about cards or I post a card that I just pulled out of a box or something. He tells me that he's going to give me $1 for it every time I post.
And
it's a great bit.
For $1, we'll put you at the end of every show. We thank Upper Deck Jerk Guy.
Upper Deck Jerk Guy.
There you go.
How well would Graham fare in jail, Jason? See, you're big enough. I just think that you're too nice, I think. You would have to put on a kind of persona that I don't think fits you. So I think you'd be all right as long as you were in jail for the amount I was in.
72 days?
Yeah. I think if you were in there for a year, you'd be pretty screwed.
I'd purchase a lot of groovy donuts and have them delivered every day. Just keep everybody happy.
Upper Deck Jerk Guy. Is it more likely that Smith doesn't win a game or goes undefeated in his first year? Jesus.
Well, they're playing Prairie View A&M, so it's more likely they go undefeated.
Jerk guy, what's the most disgusting thing you've ever had in your mouth?
Oh, jeez.
What?
Oh, no, it's just a question.
Oh.
If you had something that's inappropriate in your mouth?
Like legal? Is it illegal? Yeah. What did I eat the other day? It was terrible. I don't know.
It was, yeah.
I've had a lot of terrible things in my mouth.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what the most disgusting food.
Chewing tobacco? Used to do that.
Yeah, anything with the wrong sort of. I used to like the wrong texture. I don't like certain textures. Like,
calm down, Greg Doyle. Last one, jerk guy. Which of you is more carnapadous?
Oh boy, this is
Peacock.
Means bad-tempered, quarrelsome, or irritable.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I get hungry.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always worried that I'm going to put one of these in. It's going to take me right to a porn page. I usually go to a browser that's a little more anonymous for Upper Deck Jerk Guys. Final questions. I appreciate you not sending me there. We appreciate all of you and your Twitter questions producing our show. We appreciate Groovy Donuts. Go to groovydonuts.com or swing by either location on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday. We appreciate Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. Bet the Premier League. Lots of good underdogs this weekend. And, of course, we appreciate our friends at Midtown Brewing Company. And we appreciate, of course, Pure Options this weekend, 420 block party at the Frandale location. We'll be back Monday with hot takes. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Roof.